So here we have a section in the free will debate. What is the biblical view of human libertarian free will? Dr. Leighton Flowers at least twice in the debate, brought up the issue of the 1689 London Baptist Confession of Faith, Chapter 9 and Section 2 on free will of the confession. And he says that his opponents affirmed it, etc. Okay, so what you see in the confession is what we affirm. Okay. I already gave a biblical definition of human libertarian free will. It was a two-part definition. Part one of human free will is a will that never assents to any errant propositions. Knowing the truth and assenting to the truth. The truth will set you free. Truth is propositional. You can't give me a truth without attaching a proposition, or as Martin Luther said, an assertion. He said all Christianity is made up of assertions. You take away assertions and you take away Christianity. To take no pleasure in assertions is not the mark of a Christian heart. Indeed, one must delight in assertions to be a Christian at all. This is what he's talking about here. Truthful propositions versus errant propositions. Jesus had many errant propositions thrown his way throughout his earthly walk, throughout his ministry especially. And he combated them all with truth, right? He never assented to any errant propositions. So Jesus was truly free. In his humanity, he was truly free. And of course, a slave to sin means that freedom is free from sin, freedom from corruption, guilt, shame. And of course, Jesus was the freest in this sense as well, since he was impeccable, sinless. So Jesus, Christologically, speaking primarily of Jesus' humanity, Jesus was the freest. And we talked about the saints in glorification, how they will be sinless, impeccable. They will be like him in his sinlessness. That's what the glorified saints will be at the second advent when he returns and glorifies his people. And they will be without error. Any error to which they held will be burned up. I believe that can be found in 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And I believe 1 Corinthians chapter 3 teaches that we will all have some theological baggage to drop at the gates of heaven. Some errant propositions that we held that will be burned up, gone. We will only be assenting to truthful propositions. We will never assent to any errant propositions ever again. And we will never sin. The ability to do God's law perfectly and the inability to fall short from doing God's law perfectly. That's human libertarian free will. Human libertarian free will is not the power of contrary choice or the equal ability to choose between two or more incompatible options. Now, in the confession, chapter 9, section 2, Dr. Flowers made the assertion that this confessional statement teaches that Adam could have sinned or not sinned. Adam could have sinned or not sinned. He had power of contrary choice. That's what Dr. Flowers was asserting. I'm saying that is a fallacious way to read the confession, and that Dr. Flowers is making an inference, and that inference is a false inference. Man in his state of innocency had freedom. Notice that? Man in his state of innocency had freedom. So think about innocency. He wasn't guilty of anything. He was not corrupt. He was not made corrupted. He was made good. He was not made guilty. He was made good or innocent. Free from guilt, free from corruption. And in that innocency, he had freedom. Adam had never heard an errant proposition. Going back to John chapter 8 again, a will that never wills to assent to any errant proposition. That is human freedom. That's what Adam had, that kind of freedom. To will and to do that which was good and well-pleasing to God. That is where his freedom was, in willing and doing that which is good and well-pleasing to God. He was created unstable. The Westminster Confession says he was mutable, changeable. There was a changeability in Adam as created, so that he might fall from it. The word "so that" is a purpose clause. Whenever I see that, I think of purpose. The purpose for which he was created, mutable or unstable, was that so he might fall from it. And of course, the confessions in other the confessions, both of these Reformed confessions, say that God, in fact, did decree the fall. So that's not really the issue here. If we wanted to bring it to that issue, that's fine, but we're primarily focusing upon what is the biblical definition of human libertarian free will. For the authors of this confession, it is not the power of contrary choice. They always saw freedom, human libertarian freedom, as relational, a relational thing, relationship to and with God, as far as God's truth and God's law. Primarily, that's human libertarian freedom, is relational, has a relational aspect to God's law and God's truth. In that is freedom. And this is brought out further, of course, in section 5. This will of man is made perfectly and immutably, unchangeably free to good alone. That's true human libertarian free will. Not changeable, immutable. So in the state of glory, glorification, I always try to ask the synergist, in glorification, which is a part of soteriology, by the way, soteriology 101, right? Glorification. In glory, will the saints of Christ have the power of contrary choice to fall short from God's prescriptive will, from God's law? Will they have the equal ability to choose between those two incompatible options, between obeying God's law and disobeying? I would say absolutely not. Absolutely. I don't know how these men would respond to that, the idea of glorification. And obviously we talked about Christology. Christ was the freest. Jesus was the freest human ever to walk the earth. And of course, as an apologetic defense, a defense of defenders of the truth, Jesus himself was an apologist. He defended truth against errant propositions. Many errors were thrown at him throughout his life and ministry, and he combated them all with truth. He never assented to errant propositions. So this is what the confessions have in mind when they talk about freedom. Willing and doing that which is good and well-pleasing to God. Not falling short. If you fall short, that's called slavery. That's why the Bible constantly tells us the difference between slavery and freedom. It contrasts these ideas of freedom and slavery. They are relational issues. Every creature of God has a relationship to and with their Creator. It is either a right relationship with and to Him, or it is a relationship of enmity with and toward Him. There is no neutrality. If you're holding to human libertarian free will as the power of contrary choice, or the equal ability to choose between two or more incompatible options, I don't know how you can get away from the assertion that man is somehow some sort of neutral character in creation, a neutral creature. Okay? And of course, this is where the semi-Pelagian view of man's autonomy comes from. They have to hold that man is autonomous, a law unto himself, which is utterly fallacious. God alone possesses autonomy. God alone is a law unto himself. None of his creatures are. All creation is under God's law, God's laws. Okay? They are always what in Latin you'd call it sub lego. Sub meaning under, and lego is a form of the word for law, under law. God alone is autonomous. Auto meaning self, and nomos meaning law. Not man. But these gentlemen have to hold that man is somehow autonomous. Again, taking an attribute of God that belongs to God alone and applying it to man. And that's called idolatry. That's idolater. That's idolatrous. to take an attribute that belongs to God alone and apply it to the creature. But this is the definition of human libertarian free will that the authors of the Confession are working with, not the power of contrary choice. So I hope this is clear from the free will debate. Dr. Flowers, again, making a false inference from the confessional statement, something that the confessional statement doesn't ever say. Let me know what you think. Post your comments down below. It's a short video, but hopefully substantive. Soli Deo Gloria.